Hello, Sam Switch Track with Charon View, and today we want to talk about Little Railroad II.4 control systems. Now, before we get to anything, of course, thanking our viewers and especially our subscribers. Now, first let's take a look at the current condition of the railroad. The main changes since our last video is we've installed the background. They're canvases and they'll be painted as we get time. We also installed these curtains, which makes everything look a lot better. Added more rocks and trees. More people, things like that. Next project is to find a way to build roads and bridges and railroad crossings. Now, let's get to our list of topics. The basis for controlling the railroad is that it's an MTH Protosound 1 based system. And that includes equivalent QSI systems that were made at around the same time Protosound 1 was being produced. We use the mode of forward, neutral, reverse. In other words, train is going forward, interrupt the power, it goes to neutral, interrupt the power, it goes to reverse, interrupt the power, neutral, and so on. It's really the same as post-war Lionel, and we always use that. We don't lock locomotives in any specific direction or anything of that nature. It's a 3-rail O scale layout, which means the rolling stock and the locomotives are all scale size, which is really 1/48. Now, in using 3-rail track, there's one characteristic it has is that it never changes polarity. So you can put all the reversing loops you want. You don't ever have to worry about it changing polarity as it proceeds through the loops. Now, this layout actually has, in our view, 6 reversing loops. Now, let's take a closer look at that. Now, this is the 6 switch track arrangement, as we like to call it. And you can see right away there's 2 reversing loops very apparent. There's this one here, defined by this switch, and the one over here defined by this switch over here. However, you can think of this as a reversing loop. As the train, let's say it goes here, heading in this direction, goes all the way around and cuts in through here, comes back this way, and there you go. So there's 4 of those rather large reversing loops. And there's also another piece of track in here that on our actual layout that could be used as a reversing loop, but we never use it that way. That's used as a siding. Next item is block running, which means it uses isolated sections of track. In newer control systems, you just turn the power all the way on, and it's radio controlled by the components in the locomotive and transformers. This one is block running, so if we want to shut something off, park and shut it off, we have to actually isolate it with a block switch, which we illustrated in our last video. Now, for motive power, all units, including the A units and the B unit of ABA sets, are powered with sound. And we like to run up to 3 locomotives in the consist. If they don't run that way, we either repair them so they will, or we don't run them anymore. For consist running, there's some additional toggle switches installed in the locomotives to turn on off the headlights, and some of the lights are unplugged, and we usually set it, or we pretty much always set them up so that they when they go to low idle sound, they all do it at the same time. And all the locomotives have BCRs, which requires a short time to charge for operation. If we have a 3-unit consist, it may seem crazy, but we charge it for 3 minutes because we want to make sure to get a good charge on the capacitors. In case the locomotives get out of sync, it's easier to get them back in if you start out with a really good charge. And in our next video, we will be talking about the motive power details. Now, for the remaining topics, I'd like to turn things over to Tommy Towerman. Tommy? Hello everyone, Tommy Towerman at your service. And I'm responsible to make sure the trains move smoothly through the layout and without mishap. Okay, we have a short list of topics to get through, so let's do that right now. Okay, let's talk about our control description. Now, we do recommend you look at our previous video on wiring, which shows the various control devices, including block switches and switches for throwing switches and so forth. Okay, let's get started here. There's 2 Lionel KW transformers available for controlling trains. Usually we have one used for standby, which means if we run a train into a block and want to have it sitting there idling, we switch it over to the other transformer via the block switch, and then we continue to use the primary transformer, we call our A transformer, for running the other trains on the layout. There's no lights installed for the switch tracks, or the switch position is determined by line side signals. All the signals, for the most part, are viewable from the operator chair. There's a few signals that if a train is in the way, it'll block them. But there's enough signals to understand where the train's going to go and what's going to happen. If we want to change the signals, the orientation of them as far as the switch track or so forth, there's schematics available. We just have to go in there and rewire them on the terminal strips. We probably made about 4 changes since the layout was built, but we think it's where we want it for right now. Now let's talk more in detail about the block layout and the switch layout. This diagram shows the complete track layout, and it shows the switch track numbers. There's 10 switch tracks numbered 1 through 10, and there's the track block numbers. Now there's actually 16 track blocks, not 12 as misstated in our previous video. The block numbers are not related at all to the switch track numbers. They're just 2 entirely different sets of numbers. And you can see the blocks generally go from legs of switch track to legs of switch track. There is one case where it's that's not so, and that's this long block here. Number 2 block here, and number 3 block over here. That was such a long block, we decided to split it into 2 different sections. The next items for discussion are our signal layout and train length, so let's take a look at those. On this diagram, we have removed the track block numbers and have put the signals represented by arrows, and they show which way the signal is indicating for. And next to the arrow is the corresponding switch track number that the signal is used to indicate. So like for here, this arrow here is the signal up here. It's switch number 2. Come around here and the train is going to hit that next, and then this is a signal bridge, this is a signal bridge, and this is a 3/3 signal. This is another signal bridge, and some of these are dwarfs. Let's take a look on the board and see what signals, where the signals actually are. That signal is for switch number 2. This dwarf here is switch number 1. Signal bridge is 4 and 5. That one is number 3. The signal bridge is for switches 1 and 2. And the 4 you see there, the 3/3 is for switches 9 and 10. The short dwarf is for number 1. And the bridge is for switches 7 and 8. And over here, we have the tall signal is for switch number 6. And the dwarfs, the first one near that is for switch number 3. And the other one here is for switch number 2. Next on our list is train length. Now that's very important, as we'll show in this short video clip showing the maximum train that will be run on this railroad for normal operation. Now that went through the shortest reversing loop we have. It's also a good length to have for a train, a good maximum length, because you start to get into real train handling issues as it goes around the tighter turns and so forth. So we don't see any reason to really run longer than that, except for special excursions. Now, we've also made a list as to what trains can fit in what blocks. So let's take a look at our list. We refer to this list when we're going to have an operating session. Depending on what type of operation we want, we could set up the trains to fit in certain sidings as we shift them around. Now, if you refer back to the block diagram, we use blocks 2, 3, 12, and 6 for train storage, plus the 2 dead-end sidings. The rest of the track is considered a main line, and we try not to block it with anything. This diagram shows how we like to think of our little railroad. It's a junction with 4 roads coming into it. One from here, one from over here, one from here, and a double track one up here. And somewhere up the line is a double crossovers. So that kind of justifies our use of this long block here as train storage, as well as in here is a yard that in this area here. This is a storage siding as well. Then the main line would be considered the interior part here. And through here where everything could get, like if you're coming this way, you can switch over and go out this way and so forth. So it's a junction. And that's how we try to operate it as well. We'd like to call your attention to some related videos that we made for Little Railroad 1. There's a one on control systems, which is almost exactly the same as the control systems for Little Railroad 2. There's also 2 videos on operations. We'll do an operations video on this layout at some point, but our next video is going to be motive power, so we're not sure when we'll get to that. But in the meantime, if you're interested, you could look at our previous videos on operation. They describe various ways you can operate this little railroad. Well, that completes our short seminar here. Back to Sam now. Sam? Thanks very much, Tommy. Now, let's do some train watching. Well, seems like Tommy goofed up. Well, we'll have that cleared away in no time and be back on our way. Well, that's it for now. Please tune in to our next video, which will be on motive power. And also, in these trying times, please be well. Have fun with your trains.